Hey, besties and bosses. Actually, I need to adjust this a little bit. Happy Tuesday, y'all. We are going live at our new time, which I almost forgot about. I've been doing the lives at 6 o'clock for so long now. It's been, I don't know, years at this point, and we've been talking about doing lives at 4 o'clock, and today I was like going about doing my work, and I was like, oh, that's happening now. Hi, welcome to our new time. And if you forgot as well, we'll keep having reminders until we all get down to a groove together that we have an earlier scheduled live time, and hopefully that'll be a little easier for those of you who are in Europe, because I know sometimes you have to watch on the replays, a little easier for my East Coast folks and my West Coast folks, and I guess kind of all the people all over the place, and then we'll obviously have the replays here. Before we dive into our conversation today, because we're going to talk about content, and I want to talk about 2 core content strategies to help you have content that converts and helps you bring in 10K months. And this is such a big topic and something that I support clients with on so many different levels. A couple of reminders. One reminder. We're giving a giveaway. We give a giveaway most of our live streams. This week we are going to give away 1 copy of my content self-study course, which is content that stands out and sells. It's a really great self-study course. I've had people use that to turn their content into 10K months, literally, from the course alone, and tell me that, and then hire me for one-on-one afterwards. So we're giving away 1 copy of that. All you gotta do is say hi, leave a comment, leave an emoji, let me know you're here. Otherwise, I just won't know you're here to be able to enter you in that, and we will pick someone on Thursday. I think that's the only announcement we have. The other non-important announcement, aside from Happy Mother's Day, belated for everyone who celebrates Mother's Day. I hope you had a lovely weekend. I recently got my hair cut, y'all. I feel like I need to share this with you. I was joking with one of my clients. I think that it's either uneven or one side of my hair is more curly than the other. So there's a good chance that this side of my hair is actually shorter than this side of my hair. So if you see me like tugging on my hair, that is why, because I'm I also don't like to waste my time, and I don't know if I'm going to be bothered to go back or if we're just going to let my hair be uneven for a little while. Might also just be a curl thing. So my client and I were joking that this is just going to be the new trend, that you have like hair that's a different length. But it might be a curl thing. We'll see. So that is my funny bit of personal information for y'all. But that's not what we're talking about today. Today we're going to talk about content and content strategy, and 2 core content strategies to help you leverage your content for those 10K months. And I don't know that talking about your uneven haircut is the best content strategy, but it is real, and being real is always a great thing for connecting. So I wanted to preface this before we dive into those 2 core strategies, because I want to break those down and just give you some really practical, tangible things you can take away. Today, we're going to do kind of like a mini workshop that you can apply to your content. I want to rewind the tape a little bit and just chat content for a moment, because I know this is something we talk about in this group a lot, because I'm obsessed with content, and it's literally the number 1 strategy that has supported my business, helped me grow to my first 10K month and 20K month, 30K month, 40K month. It's what allows us to bring in consistent multi-figure cash months without spending a dime on ads. Absolutely, content takes time. It is not free, and that I definitely spend time on content, but it has been such a great strategy for us. And I know we talk about that a lot in here, but I want to spend a moment just chatting a little bit about just some concepts around content that I think can be helpful. There's 2 pieces I want to chat about, and then we'll talk about those 2 core strategies. Julia says, hi, Kim, so glad I'm catching live. Oh, so nice to have you here. It's so fun. That was the other announcement I was going to share. I'm going live, Julia, for the first time at 4 p.m. I've been going live at 6 p.m. on Tuesdays for years. So my brain is all like, I'm almost like happy, like it's sunshiny out. I'm like forgetting all the things I wanted to share. But you are reminding me, I went live yesterday inside my coach's Facebook group, the Lit Up and Loaded Entrepreneur. I did a guest live stream because she's on maternity leave. I talked about the dark side of making more money and why I'm still celebrating my lowest income month, particularly this month. So I will drop a replay link for that. We had a conversation about that in this group at the beginning of the year, but I wanted to make sure you all know if you want to catch that replay, because we touched on some new nuggets there, and I think it's just a really important conversation for us to be having as entrepreneurs. So I will drop the replay link for that. So Julia, thank you. You reminded me that was something that I wanted to preface and reference. So content, before we dive into those strategies, and just to kind of get on the same page around content. I think what's really important to remember with content, and a place I see a lot of my clients get really trapped up, if we just kind of zoom out and we talk content strategy for a second in terms of marketing, and remember when we're using content for marketing, we're using that because we're often marketing our businesses, right? We're marketing something we want to sell. And I know most of you here are passion driven, you're creative, you are people who are super feeling. Most of you, I know, because some of my clients come in, you're poetic, you love words, you love creating. I mean, ex-actress here, right? Like, I am you, I get you, I feel you, I hear you. And something I find that's so important to remember when we're talking about content marketing and we're talking about leveraging our content to bring in sales, to bring in clients, one of the biggest things I think we have to remember is our content isn't for us. It is for the people we're serving. It's really a vehicle to build relationships, to help people get to know, like, and trust us so they understand what your work is about and specifically how you can help them solve their problem and get the results they want. And I know this sounds so basic and sort of like, yeah, Kim, I know this already. I've heard this a million times. But I also know, because I talk about this with clients all the time behind the scenes, how we can know this and not realize when we're looking at our content, what we're creating really is for us and what feels good for us and what feels as creative and juicy and like, so fun to talk about. And that we're forgetting that point that is really connecting the dots for our audience, and that's really, it's for someone else. It's sort of like, I think about this with art. There's a difference between creating art and then creating art as a medium you're selling as a business. In the acting world, this was so often the thing I had to remember as an actress, right? There's a difference between being an actress and loving the craft of acting and just wanting to do that because you love that as, you know, a craft of acting, or wanting to be an actress who's getting paid for the craft of acting. And if you're getting paid for the craft of acting, you have to remember when you're auditioning and you're performing someone else's content, right? Their art, they are trying to sell a product. They're selling a TV show. They're selling a commercial to an agency. They're selling a movie. And you have to figure out how can you help fulfill what they need to be able to sell really a product. And so I think, hey, Patrice, nice to have you here. I just saw that you're on. So happy to see your face. And I think we have to remember that with our content as well, that yes, you get to be fulfilled by content. Yes, we get to be creative. Like, how cool is it that as business owners, we can pour our creative energy into our marketing, and that can make us money, that can build relationships, that can bring people in through the door. And I think we just have to be mindful of really making that distinction. Are we creating art for the sake of art? Are we creating creative work because that lights us up? Or is this meant to be a marketing vehicle, a marketing tool, something that is helping us sell our work? And if so, we just have to shift our focus a little bit and think, how is this speaking to my audience? How is this for them and not for me? And I know that's so frustrating sometimes. I know we all created our business because at the end of the day, like, most of you want to make money for you, for your life, for your family. That gets to be true. But if we're selling something with a dollar amount next to it, right, usually that means we're selling something that is really to benefit the person we're selling to. Business, at the end of the day, we're selling solutions to problems. And so I think that's really helpful, just as kind of before we dive into the core strategies, just a reminder, and again, I know you've all heard this before, but just a reminder just to check in with and think, am I thinking through the lens of how is this for my people? How is this serving my people? Or am I thinking through the lens of what do I want to talk about? What am I excited about? Now, the caveat is absolutely talk about what you're excited about. I mean, I'm excited about content, which is why I want to share about this. There are lots of things I could talk about that I don't want to talk about. I don't talk about ideal clients very often, for example, because that's not the thing that excites me the most. I talk about mindset a lot. I talk about content. I talk about marketing. I talk about sales a lot. And I'm talking about these things for you, not for me. And I think that's the big difference. Like, that's the place we want to have that marriage, those two pieces come together. So that's kind of zooming out, just a helpful remember when we're thinking about content as a content marketing vehicle, right? As a marketing tool. And just that reminder, if we're marketing, right, we're building relationships, we're getting visible, we're building relationships, and we're building really specific relationships that are helping people get to know, like, and trust us, but get to know, like, and trust us in terms of how you can help them solve their problems as it relates to your work and get that solution that they want on the other side. The other piece before we dive into the core strategies, and let me know if y'all have questions as we're going through this today. And again, leave a comment, say hi if you want to be entered to win the free content course, or not free content course, it's a paid content course, but you will win a free copy. We're picking one person on Thursday. But the other piece I wanted to chat about before we dive into those 2 core strategies that I think can be really helpful to remember when we're looking at content is, again, if we're looking at this as a way to build those relationships, those touch points that help you have someone understand why they should buy from you, why they should invest through you. One of the things I like to think about and work with my clients on is really thinking about your audience and thinking about 2 things. One, what kind of content are they actually consuming? And I know this sounds really basic, but we don't always think through this lens. I think so often we just think, well, reels are really popular, so I should do reels. I do reels, they are popular, they help. I'm not hating on reels, but I think we just sort of think about like lives are popular, let me do a live stream. Or I don't know, when I got into the online space, e-guide, ebooks were like super popular. And I think we just kind of get into this, like kind of whatever the popular thing is, that's the form of content we should produce. And yes, and I think what's really helpful is to really think about, again, your content isn't for you, your business isn't for you, it's for your people, it's for your audience. What kind of content are they consuming? What kind of content makes sense for them to consume? How are they building relationships? The example I always love to give, and I actually have a client, we were just talking about this. Let's say you work with busy moms. One of my clients literally works with really busy parents. Likely, if your target audience is super busy parents, and one of the things you help them do is get out of overwhelm and get out of burnout and kind of have productivity and kind of get out of all of that like busyness, those busy parents likely aren't consuming a 40-page ebook, right? They're likely not sitting down to consume a 5-day series of content that's an hour long each day, right? Because we're literally trying to help people who are busy, who are overwhelmed, who have little ones at home. And the problem you're specifically solving is how you can ease their overwhelm. If that's the case, we want to think, how are we being really smart and strategic in creating content in a way and packaging in a way that really matches the consumption style of your audience? If you work with really high-level CEOs who have a big team, who are really busy, and you're selling a service, let's say you're a virtual assistant, right? That really busy CEO likely isn't consuming a ton of content, right? We have to be really smart and strategic and think about that when we're thinking about the type of content we create. And the other piece with this that I just want, before we dive into those core strategies, I mean, these are all core strategies, but they feel like just setting the groundwork here, the baseline things I want to invite you to think about with your content strategy a little bit. The other thing I want you to think about is, what is the I don't know, ticket value, is that what we call it? What's the price point of your offer? What's the commitment level of your offer? And really getting clear on that and thinking through whatever the commitment is for someone to work with you, whether it's 5 minutes a day, $1 a day, or it's 6 months and hours of intimate time at a 10-figure amount, right? Whatever that commitment level is, I want you to think through what's the commitment level and how much of a relationship does someone need to feel great about making that commitment. Julia says content isn't for you, it's for your people. I think we tend to want to put out there where we want to see rather what our people actually need. I know I've definitely done that. Amen. Thank you for reflecting that back and mirroring that back. I think it's exactly that. And we all, I have to remember this as well, right? Sometimes I get so excited because I'm like, I want to share this. This is what I'm excited about. I think we do this a lot with even in our messaging, and it's exactly that. The thing we just have to remember in business over and over again, particularly as creative-minded people, particularly as passionate people, right? Because we're just like so excited to share things. I know, like, I just love, like, gifts are one of my love languages, especially in business. I just want to like give everyone everything, but I have to remember it's not about me, it's about my people, what's actually going to serve them. So thank you for reflecting that back. Going back to, just before we dive into those core strategies, the other piece I wanted to remind everyone here is thinking through what is the commitment level you're asking someone, or what's the commitment you're asking someone to make in terms of buying or investing from you, or whatever that action is, the conversion you want someone to take with your content, and thinking about what's the level of relationship someone needs to have to be able to make that level of commitment. For example, I need a different level of relationship with you if I'm giving you my email address to sign up for your email list. Versus if you have a 25K package for a mastermind that's going to go 6 months or that's going to go a year, right? There's a very different level of commitment, how much I need to know, like, and trust you and understand how you can help me specifically, because those are two very different levels of commitment, right? Is that tracking? I think that makes sense. And so really thinking through what is the conversion that you're really wanting your content to do, and what is that commitment level on the other side, and how deep of a relationship do you need to build for that conversion. And then really making sure you're creating the appropriate touch point, the appropriate relationship building on the front side of the conversion you're asking to make. For example, if you're looking to collect someone's email address for your email list, that isn't a huge ask. It is still absolutely a commitment. It is still absolutely an ask. That is still absolutely a conversion. But you're probably not going to need an hour-long video to ask someone to give you their email address, right? We really want to think about, like, what is the touch point that makes sense for that conversion? If I've never met you before, we swiped right on Tinder, we're going to have a first date, right? I probably don't need to have 4 phone calls with you beforehand. Conversely, if you have that 25K package, I think we just really want to think in terms of content. What kind of content specifically? And what is the consumption style of your audience? Where is that intersection with how much of a relationship build do we need? And what is the consumption style of your people that is really going to create the relationship, the safety, the trust for that conversion to happen? So those are just some things I really want to invite you to think about, because sometimes what I find happens, I'll be chatting with a client who's a really high ticket offer and they're really frustrated because they feel like their content isn't converting. They feel like they're doing all the right things. And when we take a look at what's going on, it's because it's not that their content is bad. It's not that they're not doing, even speaking to the right thing. The content of their content is great. It's just they don't really have enough depth and enough relationship build in a consumption style that matches their audience to deepen, bring, or create enough of a relationship to create the conversion for something that's, say, a 25K level ticket price, right? If we're selling something at 25K, I absolutely have seen people sell that with posts alone, but chances are we're going to need a little bit more of a relationship build for that. So hopefully that all makes sense. I want to lay the groundwork with that, and then let's pivot to those two core strategies, because what I want us to walk away with from today is, it's kind of like a mini training here. I want you to really feel like, okay, I'm going to go out and create content. I've got kind of this overview base idea of what I need to focus on, and now I have 2 things specifically I can focus on centering my content around, so I don't feel like I'm just spinning my wheels or spending all of this time creating content and hearing crickets. So I can be one of the people who stand out online, because the truth is, it is noisier and busier than ever before online, and that is not a bad thing. We talk about that all the time here. I think that's actually a great thing. I think that means more people are online. I think people trust buying online more than ever. However, what used to work in our content 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I've been in the online space 6 or 7 years, 6 years in business. I think we could get away with a lot more surface level content, and I don't think the strategies had to be as robust because there just weren't as many people selling online, and that just didn't have to be as much of a thing. I think right now it's just really saturated, and again, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a really beautiful thing. I am so grateful. There are so many coaches. I think it's also normalizing coaching, or whatever industry you're in. If you're an OBM, right? I bet 6 years ago, no one even knew what an OBM was, and now that's a phrase we talk about all the time. So I don't think that's a bad thing. However, I do think it asks, oh, my camera's doing like, let's see. I think that's a little better. I do think it asks us to be just a little bit more clear on our strategy. So one of the first core strategies that I want to bring today and unpack a little bit, that I edit clients' content quite a bit, and something I'm always giving them a note on and inviting them to look at is, how can they be more specific? And I'm going to give you some examples here, but I'm sure you have heard this before. None of this is brand new information, but I want us all to look at how can we do simple better, as we were talking about in the masterclass last month. How can we do simple better? How can we take these core concepts that most of us know? And if you don't know that, great, you get to learn something new today, but how can we learn one more layer of this and apply this to our content so that your content is converting at a higher level, so you can bring in the 10K months or the 20K months, whatever that is, because these are some of the difference makers, and those small micro adjustments to your strategies are usually the things that make the biggest difference in your bank account. It's usually not some like super duper secret thing and reinventing the wheel. It's usually a lot of these micro adjustments. So one of the things I'm always harping on clients about and giving them a note is, how can we be more specific here? Because as I'm sure you've heard, specifics sell, and and what's the other phrase? The devil's in the details, which is, I think, is a similar way to speaking to this. And the reason specifics sell is we have to think, if it is noisy online, a lot of the stuff we're hearing isn't new, right? You've heard specifics sell before, but if I don't specifically give you some nuggets here and help you understand this a little bit differently, I just become a voice of many online. If I'm not weaving in specifics throughout this live stream, I'm just like any other business coach who's saying content is important, you need to have a content marketing strategy, content is how you sell, right? There's so much regurgitated information online. There's so much regurgitated ideas online. And in many ways, nothing is new anyway. It's how we specifically view something. It's how we specifically talk about something. It's how we specifically connect the dots. It's how you specifically solve a problem for someone that the difference comes in, that we create that way that you can stand out online, which is why it's so important to start to look at how are you speaking to specifics in your content. So I'm going to give you some examples here of where you can be specific, because I think this is one of those things where everyone thinks they're being specific until you start to see, oh, there's so much opportunity for me to bring that in even more. How can I amp the specifics up 1 or 2 more degrees? So for example here, one of the ways I think almost everyone could stand to be a little more specific, I think this is something that's just like, no shame, no foul. I'm sure I could do the same thing because we all get busy serving our clients and not necessarily focusing on this, but it's being really specific to the problem you solve and the results you deliver. This is a messaging piece, but messaging goes in your content. We have to remember to bring that into our content if we're having our content before our people, and weaving in the specifics and painting a picture of what this looks like for your people. I was chatting with a client at Basecamp about this today when we were looking at writing, she was creating a piece of content, and we were looking at, okay, great, so this is the problem you solve for your people, but we're being so generic here. If we're talking about content, right? It's just your content isn't converting, if we're using that as an example. Great, that is a problem, and that is specific in some ways, but how can we be so much more specific? How can we drill into that 1 or 2 more layers deeper and think, okay, if this isn't for me and I want to really focus on specifics, how is that specifically showing up for my audience? How is that specifically affecting my people? How are they specifically struggling with this? One of the favorite things I like to think about is I go through my person that I love to work with. So for you, the people you love to serve, if you go through their day, when they wake up to when they go to bed, how is this problem impacting them? How are they thinking about it? How are they talking about it? How is it agitating them? How is it, this is a copywriting tool, right? We want to think about how a problem is agitating someone. How can we really help create some problem awareness around this by really getting into that nitty gritty, those specifics of this is how it's showing up for them. So if it's content, for example, their content isn't converting, does that mean that all day long they're stressing about the next post they have to write, and it takes them all day to write 1 post for Instagram or to create 1 reel for Instagram, and that means they're also listening to 3 podcasts or silently scrolling online for inspiration, or they're consuming someone else's content on how to create content and then feeling super stuck and they don't even know what to talk about, and so it's stressing them out all day long? Or is that impacting them in the way where they're like, oh, what's even the point? Because I keep doing this, it's taking all day. It feels like it's taking forever, and no one's even hiring me. Like, what's even the point? Maybe this doesn't work for me. Maybe I'm not cut out for business. Like, maybe I shouldn't even bother. Maybe Instagram doesn't work for me and I should get on Pinterest instead. Maybe Pinterest doesn't work for me and I should get on TikTok instead. Those are all specifics, examples of how if we had the general, I'm stuck with content, I don't know what to post, my content isn't converting, we could really drill in and get specific in terms of what is that problem, how does it show up for them, and can you see that difference where one, sure, that's a problem someone has, but the other one, if we're thinking about scrolling online, if you hear, is your content converting? Or if you hear, have you been silently stalking so-and-so, it's content because you don't know what to post online, and you're so sick of spending all day trying to record 1 reel only to have Instagram fucking delete that shit, and then you still feel like, what's the point, because no one's even booking you or hiring you? I don't know, I'm riffing here, but can we see how one is so much more like oh my gosh, I feel so seen. Like, how did they know that? Like, let me read more. Like, I want to hear more. And that's the difference between being general or being more generic versus speaking to those specifics. And you can do the same with the results that your work or whatever that piece of content you're talking about. It might not always be the results of your work, but it might be the takeaway you're giving someone. And so that's one area where specifics can make such a difference. And I want to invite everyone to think about, I know you know this, and go through everything you're posting. I have to do this myself. It's so easy, right? We just get into a routine. And again, we're all busy serving clients, or busy wearing the many hats in business, or busy managing and leading your team. But I think these are things where it's like, can you spend one moment and just see where's the opportunity for me to be more specific? Another really easy place, if we're looking at how can you leverage the content you're already creating for those 10K months, because part of what I want you to see here is how this doesn't mean you have to create more content. This doesn't mean you now need to find a new form of content. It's how can we leverage the content you're already creating to give you a bigger return or bigger results, right? So being more specific with the problems and results you're speaking to. Another really great opportunity for you to leverage specifics is looking at the subject line for your emails and looking at that first line for any post you share. I know we did the workshop on words that sell, which should still be saved in all the lives if anyone wants to scroll back, or we were talking a little bit more about copy specifically. But when we were talking about that, we were talking about the importance of your subject line and that first line in your content. And what I think we have to remember is your subject line and your first line in your content, those are the most valuable pieces of real estate in a piece of content, and they are the most overlooked pieces of most content. And that's because we kind of get into a groove when we're writing, especially if it's a written post or an email, kind of slap a subject line on it. But what we're really worried about is like that call to action or the end of our post, right? Who else? I know I'm not the only one who does that. What I like to really coach my clients around is how can we then go back and spend 10 minutes to really pour some effort into the subject line and the first line. And specifically, I'm going to use the word specific way too many times, how can we bring in some specifics to that subject line or to that opening line? Because the more specific those are, the more that is going to tell someone to stop their scroll or to open up their email. That is literally the piece of your content that tells someone, read or delete, stop the scroll or keep going. So that is a really, really, really easy place to leverage something you've already poured your heart and soul into. You've already done a lot of work on. If you can just go back, rewind the tape, and just spend a few minutes there and really think about how can I pour in some specifics here. Again, if we use the content example, because that's what we're talking about today, if you have a subject line that says 2 tips for content that converts, okay, that's not bad, right? Or here we talked about 2 core strategies to help you leverage your content for 10K months. We can see how there's just a few more specifics in there, right? I brought some specifics in terms of, I know my people want help with the strategy part as much as they want help with the mindset. And I know my people want 10K months or more. Like, I just know that. And I know if I can just even weave in those specifics, that like just even those little word changes, that's going to help people pay attention. That's going to help you pay attention more. And then I can serve you better. So really easy place to bring in the specifics there. All right. Here's some other places to bring in those specifics that is, again, we're looking at how can you leverage the content you're already creating. I don't want you recreating the wheel. I don't want you feeling like, and now I've got to create so much effing content. This is exhausting. I really want us to look at the content you already have, the content you're already creating. How can we get more mileage out of that? Still looking at specifics. Some other places you can bring in specifics are, what is your specific process? What is that specific process or framework you bring to your work? How can you specifically speak to that? I can't keep saying the word specific, it's cracking me up. Anyone else know that from childhood when you say like watermelon 25 times and it starts to feel like the funniest word? That's how specific it's starting to feel for me. So don't mind me if I'm making funny faces while I say it. But looking at what is the process you support your clients with in your work? How can you bring some specifics in there? Why specifically you? What do you specifically bring? What is your specific background? Hey, Kate, nice to have you. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Why specifically you? What is your specific background? How can you start to weave those details in? And again, I know everyone here knows this because we've chatted about this in different ways in live streams, but I really want you to focus on the specific part. I think what sometimes happens is we get shy, or like, oh, I've talked about that before, and we kind of just bring in our title, or we kind of are just like, yes, I'm a coach and I can help you make more money, or I'm an OBM and I can help you save time, right? We almost like, again, go back to general. And what I want everyone to keep thinking about when you walk away from this live stream is, this is not a negative story, but it is loud online. It is crowded online. So the more you can be specific in every way, the more you can help someone to understand why you specifically as a coach, why you specifically as an OBM. What is your background? What is the unique process you use? What is the unique way you help someone solve the problems you're talking about in your content post? How can you share a specific story that helps someone latch onto the content? The more you weave those in, the more you stand out, not because you're screaming or loud or, I mean, I want to encourage everyone here to brag, but not even because you're bragging or because you're, I don't know, wearing bright colors. I'm trying to think of like the funny things when I came into this space that, oh, I know. One of the things that was being taught was write all in capital letters in your opening line. I mean, I guess it's fine, but that feels like you're screaming to me. So it's not even like you have to use any of those tactics or hooks, but the way you start to stand out, the way you start to stop the scroll is you're really bringing in all of those specific details. And suddenly when it's you versus someone else who does something very similar, and not to get into comparison, that's not what we're doing here, but there simply is a lot of choice online. And so when we're looking at two people, if one is a general, I'm just going to use coach as an example because I'm a coach. If we've got a general coach who's a business coach who's saying, I can help you with content that converts, or you've got someone who's really specifically speaking to how they've used content for 6 years in their business. That has helped them build multi-six figures. They have helped people on thousands and thousands of coaching calls narrow in and hone in on their content and have helped clients grow their business to $1 million plus, have taken people from 0 to 6 figures, had 11 clients last year go 0 to 6 figures plus, using content as their main strategy, who loves to pull out words, right? And if we're getting into all those specifics and we're bringing in those details, suddenly two people are doing the same thing. But you have so much more context when there are those specifics there as to why you want to pay attention to one over someone else. Again, we're not getting to comparison. That's not the point here, but just so you can see that difference when it feels like it's really super crowded and loud online. Let me know if that's making sense for y'all. You know, I always want to make sure this is making sense. And if you have questions, throw the questions at me. I also need a sip of my kombucha, which is making noises at me. The bubbles are like very loud today. Okay. And Kate, by the way, just because you said you're here, and hi, whoever just said hi, everyone drop emojis if you want me to know you're here. Hey, Melissa, nice to see you here. And we are giving away a content course on Thursday. Kate, you are one of the people who influenced this time. So I know it's not quite as early for Europe because it's still late. I imagine it's probably 10:30 for y'all over there, but hopefully it's not quite as bad as when I was going live at 6. But I had too many client calls scheduled earlier, so we couldn't get it any earlier than this. But it's still light out, which is very, very fun here. Okay, so in terms of specifics, I want to pivot the table, but just a couple other areas for everyone to think about because I want to talk about the other core strategy while we wrap up today's live. But I think also just looking at what is your specific lens and viewpoint and thought process for the content you're sharing, I think can be incredibly valuable and really help you leverage the same piece of content, the same things you're already talking about, so you're not having to recreate the wheel and create something else, but that can make such a difference and help you specifically stand out above the noise. Really, for most of us online, when everything is starting to feel very samey, what really separates you from someone else, as we're talking through these specifics, a really core piece there is, what is your unique lens? What is your thought process? What is your thought leadership? What is your unique viewpoint? I was chatting about this with a client yesterday, and we were talking about really how can you have a strong enough opinion that is both repelling and attracting? We hear this so much in marketing, right? Marketing isn't just about attracting, it's about attracting and repelling. I always think about a magnet. You think about a magnet has those two sides. We both need to attract and repel people with our marketing. And to do that, we have to have an opinion, which means we have to be specific enough in the way we're talking about our opinion and that lens we bring to something. So as you're looking at your content, I think that's just another way where it's like, again, you don't have to have a crazy strategy. You don't have to create new content. We don't have to do anything extra, but looking at the content you're already creating, how can you get really curious about what is your specific lens? What's your specific viewpoint? What's your specific opinion? How can you apply that? How can you teach people what you want them to know about you? Because that automatically is going to differentiate you. Because even if all of us have the same understanding, the same education on, we'll use content as an example because that's what we're talking about today. All of us are going to have a slightly different lens, a slightly different viewpoint, a slightly different way we think about it and approach it. And as the more you're speaking to that, the more that's going to help people understand why you, not just what's the problem you solve and how you can help them, but why they should get that problem solved by you specifically. Kate, this is a great time. Thank you. Yay, that makes me happy. I hope it's great for everyone. Obviously, with a group this size, we can't make the time great for everyone, but I'm hoping this is a little bit better for everyone. And I'm excited because when we have the time change, it will no longer be dark outside in the winter when I'm going live, which is always, I don't know, always feels like I'm in like a little tiny, like there's a flashlight on me. Kate says, ooh, I literally heard the magnet analogy today. It's such a good one. I love that. I thought I made it up yesterday, but I think that is whenever we have an idea, obviously nothing is new. It's in the zeitgeist, which is exactly what I was talking about earlier. And I think that's actually a piece here before I pivot. Thank you for saying this, Kate, because I think this is actually really important for everyone to hear. We're talking about the importance of specifics and having your own opinion and bringing that to the table. And I think just to remove the pressure backpack off of everyone's shoulder, because this is also something I hear from clients so often. What can freeze people up with content is the fact that nothing is new, right? I thought I made up this magnet analogy and someone else is talking about it because that makes sense. That's an analogy that makes a lot of sense. There are probably other people that are talking about it. And if I heard that and thought, oh, well, shoot, now I'm not being specific. Now I'm not being unique enough. I can't talk about that because someone else is talking about it. That I better wait till I can have a different idea. I would freeze and never, ever, ever share content. Or if I thought, oh my gosh, this isn't unique and specific enough, how can I talk about this in this way? I have to wait until that to be able to share and talk about something. I would never ever share anything. So while we're talking about really where can you be specific, how can you hone in those specifics, the specifics are going to help you differentiate and stand out and sell more. I want to be mindful for everyone here, since I'm not getting to coach everyone one-on-one, to not let this the shadow side of this be something that keeps you stuck and something that has you procrastinate and something that keeps you from posting your content because someone else has said something that you want to say or is talking to a topic where you feel like you're not specific enough. We want to find that happy medium where we use this as something where it's like, oh, this is an opportunity. Where can I apply this opportunity to my content so that I can leverage my content more? And how can I not let this become the very thing that keeps me stuck? Because that is not the point of what we're doing here at all. Kate says, I'm definitely guilty of going round in circles with content at times. Kate, I think it's you and everyone else. I think it's such a common thing. I think content seems, I think, like such a linear strategy. Create content, share your ideas, put it out line. Like, here are the strategies. It's a marketing strategy. And most of us are creating content that is our thought leadership. It's not simply here are the 3 steps to follow. And I think because of that, there's so much mindset that gets poured into our content. There's so much vulnerability. There's so many layers there. And then there's also, I think, other added mindset components of like visibility and what we were just talking about, like where we can almost worry about stepping on toes or not being unique enough. So I think it's really, I think content is one of the things that is actually so mindset heavy, even though there's a lot of strategy there. So just to normalize, thank you for saying that, Kate. And I think that is, anyone watching now or on the replay, you don't have to, but I'd be curious who's ever found themselves going round and round in circles with their content ever in their business. I think everyone would say yes. And can you all hear my cat? Kate, I don't know who else is like, can you hear my cat meowing? I realize this is going to happen every week when I go live because we are a quarter to her feeding time and she starts meowing for food. So you'll get lots of Nala on our lives. Okay, so just to wrap up the specific piece, and then we'll pivot to the other core strategy piece, which I think is a little simpler. But again, just looking at what's your specific lens and what's your specific way of thinking about things, how can you practice weaving that into your content is going to be such a game changer and help you differentiate yourself, but also attract the people who are a really great fit for you and your work. It's gonna bring in people who are really more pre-qualified for your work. Kate says, "Ah, so cute." It's so cute sometimes. Sometimes she can, I love her because she's the cutest and she'll be cute if she's up here, but sometimes she is very persistent when it comes to wanting to eat. Okay, let's talk about the other core strategy. So the other core strategy to leverage the content you're already creating. We're not talking about creating more content. How to leverage the content you're already creating for those 10K months or 10K plus months, 20K months, 30K plus months, whatever that is you want to create, is consistency. And before everyone hops up and eye rolls consistency, I want to talk about a specific kind of consistency, not just like show up every day. I think consistency looks different for everyone, and there are different types of consistent action. But I specifically want to talk about two different types of consistency. One is and I'm just looking at my notes because I have a lot of notes here, but one is really consistently selling your content, and one is consistently leveraging your content. So Julia says repurposing. Yes, exactly. You read my mind, Julia. We're on the same wavelength here. And so with consistency, we know consistency is king, is queen. My coach Lacey has said before, your money, your income will be as consistent as you are. So to give her a shout out, since we mentioned her earlier, because I was live in her group yesterday, consistency is so important. You all know that. And I always work with clients to get clear on what's their consistency schedule and cadence for their content. And that is something I invite everyone to get clear on. What does consistency look like for you with your content? And specifically when we're talking about leveraging your content and leveraging your content so that it allows you to sell more, so it allows you to make more money, so that you can leverage your content without having to hustle and work a whole lot more. The two types of consistency that I think are game changing, that I frankly think most entrepreneurs are not leveraging nearly enough, is one, consistently selling your content, and then we'll talk about the repurposing piece. So when I say consistently selling your content, and I know we've talked about this before, but I am repeating this because I talk with clients all day, every day. This is something I have to lovingly nudge them on. What I find happens so much for us entrepreneurs is we focus all this energy on the strategy, like we're talking about, all this energy on the mindset, all this energy I'm pouring into and creating a piece of content, and then we post it. And I go live, like today, I go live, and then we're like, I did my job, I did my work, I did my live stream, high fives, and then we go back to the drawing board, we come up with another topic, we do all the mindset work, we do all the strategy work, we create a new topic, and we go live again the next week. We're like, I did that, I'm done, yes, I'm being consistent, and that is great. I'm not making fun of everyone, that is great. High five for everyone who's being consistent in that way. And what's happening is those live streams are not getting the mileage you can get out of them. There is so much mileage. Most people are not selling a piece of content like a live stream or a podcast. Or I went live in my coach's Facebook group yesterday, right? That is a piece of content that I did, and it is now my job to leverage that by selling the shit out of it. It is my job after going live today to sell the shit out of this live stream. Excuse my French, I can't help myself. And that is an invitation I want for everyone here to think about. How are you consistently taking action to sell the content you've already created to get more eyeballs on it? So you're leveraging each piece of content you created multiple times. I'm always thinking about how can we leverage it at least 2 or 3 times, right? So for this live stream, as for an example, is that even proper grammar? Here's a content tip. You can have horrible grammar and still have content that makes you multi-6 figures in business. Ask me how I know. We have grammar and spelling mistakes all of the time. So don't let that be the thing that stops you from, and I have someone who edits my content and we still have mistakes go out. Don't let that be the thing that stops you from making money. But if we use this live stream as an example, we sent an email to my email list before going live. Okay, that's one way I sold this consistently. I'm going live now. We will send a replay to my email list next week with bullet points if you watch the replay again. So that's 2 times I'm selling this live stream. On Instagram, I might have actually forgotten today, or my team might have forgotten, but usually we have a post that goes out there that sells the live stream. So that's 3 ways for this live stream minimum. We are going to consistently sell this piece of content. Then usually, right now we have a surplus of content, so we're not necessarily doing that right now, but usually we'll also pull from this and repurpose it, which we'll talk about in a second. But what I want you to see here is that is selling this piece of free content. My podcast. When my podcast episode airs, we sell that podcast multiple times. We have 2 posts that go out on Instagram. It goes into my stories twice per week. It gets posted in this group twice. It gets sent to my email list twice. So that's 6 times I am selling an episode to my podcast. I'm creating that once. I'm consistently selling that episode 6 times. Then we're also sharing that episode in other Facebook groups. So it's more like we're selling that, 8, 10 times, because I pour energy into that. We also spend money getting that edited, right? It costs money to do. I want to make sure we're leveraging those dollars and that I am getting a return from that investment of my time, because my time is very valuable, and I'm getting an investment from producing that. And I know the way I'm going to leverage that one podcast episode into a 30K or a 40K or 50K, whatever that is for you month, the way I'm going to leverage that piece of content is not by recording it and sharing it with everyone once and then being done. It is by selling it consistently and consistently. And then I'll share it on here with you, or I'll do another podcast where I reference back to another podcast episode. So those are some examples. I think I'm hitting you over the head with this idea. But what I want everyone to think about is, how are you consistently selling your content? And what I like to remember is, the more you focus on selling your free stuff, the easier it is to sell your expensive stuff. The more you focus on selling your free stuff, and the more effort you put in on the front end with selling that free initial touch point with someone, and all those touch points for the relationship build, the lighter lift, the easier, it is so much easier then to sell the high ticket stuff. Because ideally, if you're selling all those front touch points, that's actually the hardest connection point, because that's when you're starting to get to know someone, right? Your first date with someone, getting someone to say yes to that first date and to hang out with you, right? That's almost the hardest sale, right? If you keep going on dates, you're getting to know each other, it kind of gets easier and easier the more you get to know someone. Same with content, right? Getting someone to listen to the podcast the first time, that's kind of the biggest sell we have to do. I know when someone listens, they usually listen to multiple episodes, right? It gets a lot easier after that. And then if you've listened to multiple episodes of my podcast and you book a discovery call with me, at that point, you probably have a good idea of what I'm about, what my work is about, how I can help you. Ideally, by the time you get on a phone call with me to talk about working with me, you already know you're considering hiring me. My goal is, when someone gets on not that people can't just find me and book a consultation, that does happen, but my goal is, when people get on the phone with me, they already know they want to hire me, and we're just going through logistics and figuring out if it's a fit. Not they're figuring out, who am I, what do I do? And again, not that can't happen. We are available for that. Absolutely, people find things and book a call. But if we think about what your content is doing for you in your sales process, and leveraging your content for those 10K or 20K or 30K cash months, we can see the more you sell the free stuff and the more you sell those touch points so that people can build that relationship, the easier it is for you to make those sales on the back end. Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense, and then we'll talk about the repurposing part, because that's the other piece of the consistency. Because Julia hit the nail on the head there. Because the other part of the consistency I really want to invite everyone to think about is, how are you consistently leveraging the content you've already created, which I think is a little different than selling the content you've created. Selling the content you've created, I think, is really getting it in front of eyeballs, or earballs, in front of ears, in front of eyes, in front of new people, reminding people to come consume your content. That is selling your free content. I don't really think of that as repurposing as much as I think of that as selling. However, if you're creating a piece of content, I want you to think about, how can I leverage this? If I have poured time, energy, resources into creating something really valuable, and Kate says makes perfect sense, thank you. How can you leverage what you've already created more and more? And that's the other thing we like to think about, is how can we create something once and use it multiple different ways? Because if you're a business owner who's serving clients, whether it's one-on-one or one-to-many, your main job needs to be serving your clients. And then if you're scaling your business and you also have a team, your main job needs to be serving your clients, doing the things only you can do, which is probably creating the content and letting your team, sell your content and help you leverage your content. What we don't need is you spending all your time recreating the wheel, becoming a content creator, even though we are content creators. If I was always creating new content, I have a lot of one-on-one clients who I love and adore, and I give them a lot of high touch support. I wouldn't be able to do that if all the time I was having to recreate and create a ton of content. So with any piece of content we're creating, we are consistently looking at how can we consistently use this in multiple ways. So the podcast, for example, not only is that a podcast, but that becomes we mine that for a couple of written posts. So we are leveraging, and this is where Julie was talking about repurposing, we are consistently leveraging that piece of content, and we are turning that into written posts, which then become social media content. And then we're not stopping there, right? We're looking at how can we use this at least twice to make it worth it. We are consistently taking this action, right? We are then looking at how can we consistently leverage this content. Okay, we've done those posts. Maybe that now turns into an email. Maybe that now turns into a blog post. Or maybe we're repurposing in other Facebook groups. But we're really looking at how can we take one piece of content and turn it into multiple pieces of content. A lot of times what we will also do is take that same topic and bring it to you as a live stream, because I know I'm going to talk about it differently here than on the podcast. And so I want you to see that, again, I know everyone knows here to repurpose. I know that's not it's not a concept you haven't heard before. And I want you to look at, are you doing this consistently? Because it is that consistently piece. Do you have a process in place? Do you have a strategy in place where this is something that is happening on repeat? Or is this sort of a concept where it's like, well, when I'm burnt out or when I'm tired or when I don't know what to say, or I know I could do this. And I think that's the big difference maker. I want to invite everyone to look at how can I turn this into a consistent action, a consistent strategy? Because when you're consistently selling your content and you're consistently leveraging it in more than one way, that's how you're creating something once, not having to recreate the wheel, and you're really able to leverage it to bring in more of those results. And that's when it becomes a lot easier to have content become a machine for you. Really, it's a marketing machine. It's an engine that brings in those clients or those sales for you so that you can make those 10K months on with a lot more ease without doing a lot more work. Yes, it takes some work. Yes, it takes some strategy, but those are the pieces I want you to play with and really want to invite everyone to think about. And just to think about, if you are doing this, is there an opportunity to refine that so that it is a process that's happening consistently as opposed to sporadically, kind of from time to time when you're just sort of oh, this would be a cool thing to do. I would say that has been one of the biggest things over the last few years that I've really focused on as I've been scaling my business, and seeing the more I scale my business, the more I really need to focus on the very few things I can do and just be so mindful of my time and my efficiency. And as I've grown my team, because that is an expense in the business, so that I'm really being mindful and we're really being smart and efficient with how we're allocating team hours and how we're leveraging those hours and that time and that spend for an ROI, for that money we want to bring into the business. And these are the things I'm really thinking about, in terms of what's going on into the content, definitely those specifics that we talked about and those pieces we talked about, but then kind of in terms of leveraging that content, how are we specifically selling it? How do we have a process that we are just making better and better? How do you do simple better, as we were talking about in last week's masterclass? And how are we really repurposing and leveraging content and really putting that process in place? I would say that's a huge piece of what I've been focused on with team, because the more we're focused on that, the easier my business gets. But this is a piece that needs to keep happening, right? If we're going to keep the business engine running really well. So I hope that is helpful for everyone here, and just some different ways to think about your content, so that we kind of, just to recap, we took that big overview of really the difference between content as a marketing strategy and really as something that's more an art form. It can be both, but seeing where that overlap is and understanding the consumption style of your people and really what kind of touch points we want to have and think about including depending on the type of conversion you're looking for. And then looking at those two core strategies, speaking to the specifics, bringing those in, and then looking at consistency, but consistency through a slightly different lens than just do stuff all the time, consistently selling your content and consistently looking at how to leverage it. Julia says, Kim, I think hearing your process can be super helpful, even if people already know they have to do this. No, they have to do this. Thank you. I really appreciate you sharing that. Are you asking what my process is in terms of this, or you mean just hearing this here? But I appreciate you hearing this because I know what it's like in the online space where like none of this is new information. And that's why I appreciate hearing this so much, because sometimes I'm like, well, I know you all know this because you're all very, very smart business owners. And it's true. Sometimes it's just so helpful to hear what is that specific process? What is the reminder I need to have? How can I look at this differently? What is actually working for people? Because I can share this works, right? I've been around for 6 years, y'all. We continue to add 100K plus or more revenue every year. Like we are consistent, we are sustainable. So I think it's just helpful to also know like these are the things that really do work to bring in not just the 10K, but the multiple 5 figures and 6 figures. I have clients who are making far more than that, and that allow you to have sustainability in your business. Julie says, just hearing it here now. That's what I thought you meant, but I wanted to make sure there wasn't a question in there that I could answer while I'm live. I super, super appreciate you, and I appreciate that reflection. If you're watching on the replay, because I know many of you will also not have known today was our 4 o'clock time, like I almost forgot. Let me know if you have any questions, if there was anything that you want clarity on, and then if there's anything around content specifically, I mean, it can be sales as well or marketing. If you have a question around this or any of the things I mentioned with team, let me know if there's something you want support around. Always curious to know where I can bring topics for you all that is just going to be supportive and help all of you to make lots of money and do so in a way that is really sustainable and really matches your energy, that really supports your life, that matches your version of success. So if you have any questions, and again, if you have anything you want me to cover, definitely let me know. And then if any of you want support with your content, if you want support with your marketing strategy, if you want support with your sales process, if you want support with the mindset piece and all those gremlins that get in the way of having you hit posts or having you get consistent or having you feel like you're allowed to share the things you want to share or having you post the vulnerable post so that you can have a process you can rinse and repeat, so you can have those strategies and those systems and processes in place, so you can bring on team to help you get these systems in place to leverage your content so that you can have those 10K, 20K, 30K plus months. That is what I support my clients with. That is what I love to do. I'm really, really good at it. I'm not just saying that. I've been doing this for years. My clients get excellent results. We also have a lot of fun. I would love to hear from you. I'll drop a link for a discovery call. They're completely free, very low pressure, and we can connect and see if we would be fit to work together and talk about one of my upcoming spots. Hey, Miss Laura. Laura says, late to the party, but hi. Nice to see you. I'm literally about to hop off, but I'm so happy to see your name here, so you can catch the replay. Kate says, thank you so much, Kim. Thank you for being here. Thank you all. I am sending so much love. I love getting to do these. It always makes like live stream day is my happy day. Podcast recording is up there, but podcasting is a little different because I'm by myself solo in my closet when I'm recording. So I feel like I'm talking with y'all, but I like get to hear the responses. We record in advance, like a month later. So I love when we get to do these every week because I get to connect with you all and like get that immediate response. So thank you all for being here as well. Julia says, thanks, Kim. Laura says, we'll catch the replay. Let me know if you have any questions, Laura, and your thoughts. And thanks for being here, Julia. So happy to have you all here. And then a reminder for everyone, I will pick the winner for the Content That Stands Out and Sells course on Thursday. Again, as long as you left a comment, you are entered, and we will DM you if you are the winner. Love y'all. See you next week.